interesting talk. And we will now move on to Marcin Pietrzyk for his talk. So thanks for joining us. Marcin Pietrzyk is the founder and CEO of Unit8, a Swiss company bringing world-class experts with a proven track record in AI and software engineering. Before Unit8, he was head of big data and at Swisscom, leading all the data and AI activities of the company. And he completed his PhD in Orange Labs in France. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So what you see on the screen are three things. It's a potato chip, it's a bottle of perfumes, and a set of medical pills. And those three things have several things in common. First of all, they are all consumer goods, but what is more interesting, and what I'm going to be talking also partially about in this talk, is that they are all increasingly produced with the help of artificial intelligence. Of course, on different levels, at different phases of the development. I'm gonna show you some of the examples in the slides that follow. But first, perhaps let me introduce a little bit who I am and who we are. So my name is Marcin. I'm founder and CEO of Unit8. We are a group of now more than 60 engineers, business analysts, experts in the field of analytics. We like to think of ourselves as a digital native crew. So many of our employees are coming from either startups or some of well-known brands in the digital field. Some of the logos you can see on the screen. And what we do is we help companies in various sectors, mainly large enterprises, to use their data more efficiently and to drive value in their business using data analytics and machine learning. So we've been active so far in 8 sectors. We delivered more than 50 projects for various industries. And in this short talk, I'm going to give you a glimpse of kind of projects that we've been involved with. But first, what's our mission? If you look at the largest companies here in the US, but I think globally the picture is fairly similar. This is the picture in 2008. This is the picture in 2018. So I think the difference and the trends are fairly evident. And we think that this dominance of the several mega digital conglomerates, it's not necessarily the best thing for the global economy, especially for Europe, probably. So our mission is to help and make our humble contribution to alter perhaps not the top of this ranking, but to help the companies which are not necessarily benefiting from the digital innovations and use of the analytics so much, to help collaborate and help to compete in this new realm. So that's what we are busy with. But what does this mean in practice? So now I will show you a few of the projects that we did in Unit8 so that you can hopefully get a feel of kind of things we do. So this is a project we did for one of big pharma customers. Unfortunately, we cannot show you here the names of the companies because the work is done under NDA. But essentially, this encompassed improvement of production line of hormones in this case. So, you know, the customer is producing basically massive amounts of hormones in forms of pills, and we've been mandated to analyze the whole process of production of this particular product and to improve it. And we managed by applying, data science, data analytics, also machine learning techniques to improve overall efficiency of this process by 15%, which is massive. Thinking about the volumes that a company is producing. So in this case, the savings were going to volume of around 50 million Swiss francs a year. So how do we do it? You can see on this slide the process of production of those pills. It is blurred on purpose to preserve the anonymity of the steps. But for us, we are mainly computer scientists and engineers. We are not necessarily experts in the field itself, but what we did first is we mapped out the whole process. So we had to understand what are really the steps that are necessary to produce the end product. And those are things like, preparing the raw material, things like tableting step, things like drying, things like packaging, etc., etc. And at the places where there are blue dots on the screen, you can see places where we collected the data from. So that's the first step. You need to see what data you have available. And here we had our first surprise. So, we are talking about top 10 pharma companies globally. And we've been quite astonished to see that the data they have are either in Excel sheets or perhaps in best case in some database, and many times still on paper. So the first step was really bringing the data into a kind of coherent form and integrating the data that we have. And then what you do basically is you massage the data to try to find inefficiencies in the whole process. And also you build machine learning models to automate parts of the configuration of the process. So just to give you an example how this works, there is perhaps a tableting step which is configured manually by an operator. And this operator has a lot of domain know-how how to set the parameters of the machine which is producing tablets. But from time to time, he's making mistakes. So we replace this manual step with basically machine learning model that takes into account hundreds of parameters that are important for the configuration of this particular step, and you get it right, not only sometimes, but basically at each and every step. And then by combining these sort of small improvements throughout the process and many others, we will not unfortunately have time to go in depth there, you get the end result, which is what I told you, 15% efficiency gain in this case. So that's something we did for several of our customers in pharma and also in chemical industry. And now let's talk a little bit about a different case, because my purpose here is to give you a little bit the overview of kind of things we are doing. This one is particularly interesting because it's touching on the creation of the product itself. In this case, we are talking about a perfume. So perfumes, you can think of it as a chemical formula. So it's basically a mix of hundreds of different ingredients that are prepared in a way such to give the best perception and the best possible smell for the client. And the way these perfumes have been created so far since probably more than 100 years is you had sort of specification which talks about the customer and the customer profile. Then you have an expert person or actually a team of people who understand on one hand the ingredients and the chemistry, on the other hand they have very good smell. And by trial and error, they come up with new formula. What we are doing now is let's call it a new way, is very much software and machine learning driven. So you basically pre-configure certain parameters and you give them importance, things like type of properties you would like to have for your end product, price sensitivity, perhaps you would like the product to be similar to something else. because maybe you are creating a product that is similar to something you already have in your portfolio. There might be certain ingredients you want to reduce because of compliance reasons. There might be other ingredients you want to increase for some other reasons. And this is all fed into a fairly complex deep neural net, which is trained on millions of previous formulas, and you get a proposal of a new formula. The system is not yet working perfectly in the sense that you don't get always automatically the best possible formula you can just produce. So still there is a need for human to tweak it, but it dramatically reduces the speed of production of the new compounds. One application of very similar system is formula optimization. So in case of certain chemical formulas, you want to reduce certain type of ingredients. Here, quite famous example was the citrus crisis. So basically citrus plants are getting sick globally, which drives the price of citrus ingredients very high. And using these methods that I just showed you, you can reformulate in a smart way your product in a way such that it preserves the properties of the end formula while reducing the amount of the problematic ingredient. And this, in certain cases, allowed the customers to drive the cost of the production of the end formula by as much as 40%. So this was chemical space, but we are, as I told you, work for 8 different industries. So the last industry I wanted to give you a glimpse of is banking and insurance. So this is a case that we did together with one of big insurance companies. It's all about climate risks. And so we basically took the data from the open web about the weather, and then we together modeled different scenarios of possible climate changes going in the next few decades. And out of that, you have, depending on the scenario, for each polygon in the globe, predictions of wetness, dryness, sea level rise scores, which are then used for better modeling of the risk portfolio. And one more case, in this case, in banking, something very important, especially in 2020, unfortunately, it's called financial health watch list. So it's all about using data to predict companies and partners of the bank who might get into financial troubles and to be able to react early on. And such systems, of course, allow the bank to react in advance. And we are also doing projects which are very important, but I would say less visible, and they are about unifying data across various systems, because many of the enterprises we work with have this big problem of having the data very scattered across, tens or hundreds of different IT systems. And this is preventing them from really using data effectively. So in this case, we did, I perhaps for the sake of time will skip this one. In this case, we integrated together more than 30 different data systems globally, and we brought them together into one coherent central data point, which allowed the customer to build very sophisticated cases on top of that. And this, in the end, helped them to save millions in the end in regulatory fines that they managed to avoid. So this was, I would say, a 10,000 feet view of kind of AI, machine learning, analytics use cases you might find in enterprise. And if I summarize it all, if you look at modern enterprise, you have different functions. The state is somehow looking a bit like that. So we have very impactful, but still scattered mushroom kind of cases in different parts of the enterprise that are solving, certain problems, having, I would say, significant but still isolated impact. The question is, what will be the pace, of filling in of this graph in the next years. And as a closing, I'd like to use three quotes. Jeff Bezos a couple of years ago famously said that Amazon is now using machine learning to solve problems that previously were in the realm of sci-fi. So that's quite exciting. But to put things a little bit in perspective, there is this very nice quote from technical advisor to Microsoft CEO, where he says that if it's written in Python, it's probably machine learning, and if it's written in PowerPoint, it's probably AI. And the last quote is from a French author, that we should basically be nice to machines because they tend to treat very badly those who don't like them. And with this, very happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Great, thank you very much, Marcin, for the really interesting talk. We have one raised hand from Magda Szczygieł. So please go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. It was a great talk. Quick question. So I was wondering, you mentioned that you sort of, although you were not experts in the processes you were optimizing, you managed to reach great results. Yeah. How do you think that there would be this would be even improved if you were indeed experts? I mean, how much does it matter? And how much do you actually have to dig in the process? And how much does it matter if you would have also experts on board from all the disciplines, let's say pharma, chemistry, whatever else that you are working with? Do you think it's necessary, or we are so good, or you are so good with machines that you don't even need to be experts in the field anymore?
Yeah, I wasn't maybe precise, because when I said we are not experts, I was talking about the company Unit8. So the way we operate is, we bring the skills around analytics, around data to the table. And of course, we team up with the customer who has the deep understanding and the domain knowledge. So like picking on the case of manufacturing, we've been working very, very tightly, with people who know this process inside out, who spent years on this particular, ground of the factory. And we've been working for 9 months jointly together, day in, day out. And because only by combining this domain know-how and understanding of the process and our skills, you can reach this sort of results. And to maybe build up on that, it would be very difficult for us, or I think any external company, to have that depth of the domain know-how as in this case customer had. So I think very successful model is this really combination, and by bringing skills from these different domains, I think you can really achieve very, very good results.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the question. We have one more question in the Q&A. How did you manage to get sufficient expertise to work for 8 industries?
Mm-hmm. So I think the question is a little bit related to the first one. So what we bring to the table for those industries is the skills that they are missing or they are weak at. And this is, again, analytics, data science, machine learning, software engineering as well. So this is like the missing component. And we always team up very tightly with the internal team who has the depth of the understanding of particular processes or a particular domain. And of course, over time, we are also becoming maybe, for sure not at the same level, the experts like the customer is, but we of course built up over the last 4 years quite a lot of domain expertise just by spending time and energy on those topics.
Great, thanks a lot. There are also a few more questions.